The Republican Party is seeing a widening rift between the establishment GOP and President Trump. But where do conservatives in America stand on this issue? In fact, a new Rasmussen poll found that 72% of Republican voters, they want their representatives to be more like Donald Trump going forward. We want to bring in our panel now to discuss. Jack Kingston, Bobby Eberle. And, Bobby, I'll go to you. It seems like the GOP might be looking different in the near future. But, we've heard from potentially Mitt Romney, maybe Chris Christie, who are eyeing that 2024 spot. How's that going to resonate with American voters and the Republican base right now?
Well, those two you mentioned, I don't think they would stand a chance. And what was interesting is if you have people actually define what they mean by the party or the next candidate to be more like Trump, because if you look at the policy initiatives that he pushed forward during these past 4 years, lower taxes, strong military, strong on the border, lowering regulations, better trade deals, everything pretty much falls into the conservative philosophy. So those that try and think that he transformed the party, that's really not true. We are just getting results that we've wanted for a long time. I think the more like Trump really falls into not rolling over to the Democrats, not rolling over to the media, actually standing up and fighting for these principles rather than saying, oh, you guys are being mean to me. I'm going to back off. I'm going to back down. I'm not going to fight for what I believe in or for all the voters who supported him. So I don't think candidates like that really stand a chance. I think our conservative principles are alive and well. We just want someone that will actually fight for them. And for the first time in a long time in President Trump, that's what we got.
Right. Now, Jack, when you said Senator Hawley actually standing up for the election integrity, he started getting questions. Obviously, if this means he might be setting up a run in 2024, he had this to say.
That's ridiculous. I'm not running for president. I'm the senator from Missouri. I have a responsibility to speak on behalf of my constituents and to stand up and take a stand where I can. And I say again, this is the opportunity that I have to do it.
Now, I'm no I'm no old senior citizen, but I'm old enough to remember when Josh Hawley told us that he wasn't going to be running for U.S. Senate back when he was just a state elected official. Should we read into this? Is he perhaps setting up a run? And if so, is this the type of leadership that these voters are looking for?
Well, I think what he's doing is a very smart thing, not just politically, but philosophically. There was an outrageous amount of voter fraud that has not been addressed by the court system. So I'm glad he's doing that. But, following on Bobby's theme, I think there are three things that people are looking at. And the first one is a fighter. Donald Trump came down the escalator and took on the establishment, whether it was the media, whether it was high tech, whether it was the business community. He said, I'm going to drain the swamp. And people said, he's a fighter and he's fighting for me. It was very important. The second thing is he was a doer. For years and years, decades, every member of Congress, Democrat and Republican, said, let's move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in Israel. Nobody would ever touch it, but Donald Trump did it, just like he did drilling in Anwar in Alaska. We all talked about it, but he got it done. He was a doer. And then thirdly, and I think far more importantly than any of it, is Donald Trump is authentic. He was the authentic candidate out of the 16 who applied for the job in 2016. And so I think people recognize that when he said something, he really did mean it. He wasn't just going to read a poll or some kind of a test group that said, oh, this is what people want to hear and this is how you phrase it. He's a very blunt guy. He was a brass knuckles, kind of bombastic guy from Queens. And that's what he was. He never tried to change. And I think people really appreciated the authenticity.
He's a fighter, and he will continue to fight for the integrity of the election until he's taken out of the office, come January 20th. Again, we'll see what happens, and all eyes are on that January 6th meeting in Congress. And Bobby, I'll go to you because we've had some recent developments there. Of course, we've seen Josh Hawley come forward saying that he would object, as well as those House members who would object as well. And then that could lead to those 2 hours of debates. And then you've got the votes again. And then, of course, you have to think about the majority in the House, which are Democrats right now. And Nancy Pelosi is overseeing all of this. But still, it will be very interesting to watch what all happens. What are you looking forward to seeing? What are you keeping your eye out for?
Well, I'm looking forward to one, just to echo what Jack said about Josh Hawley. I mean, there's no downside for what he's doing. Jack's exactly right. I mean, this is the right thing to do, both philosophically and politically. I mean, no one's going to fault you for standing up and fighting for this, for Donald Trump, for the election, for an election integrity. For this process, I think the American people should tune in, as is televised, watch all of this, because there are so many hearings in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona, all over the place in Georgia, where they held hearings, they brought out evidence, they brought out witnesses. People weren't really watching, the media weren't covering it. This is a big deal, and people should watch it just to hear the evidence, make their own decisions, call their congressman, call their senator, tell them to get involved. I think it's very important going forward to see what is going to actually happen with this election. But going forward, are we actually going to do something about voter fraud? That's a big deal.
You know, Josh Hawley obviously put himself out there. A lot of people are talking about him and his decision. And he's, of course, have a lot of critics out there criticizing the move to do this because they're not optimistic that it would change any of the results. So he answered some of those questions on Fox News last night. Here's what he had to say.
I don't recall hearing the Democrats make any such outrageous claims when they were the ones who were objecting during the Electoral College certification in 2004 and 2016. Democrats have done this for years in order to raise concerns about election integrity. Now when Republicans, 74 million Americans, have concerns about election integrity, we're supposed to just sit down and shut up?
Yeah, and he's not doing that. He's speaking out, Jack. And it makes you wonder, could there be other Republican senators who are now going to feel the pressure to join in with his efforts?
I think they will, and I think they're going to be hearing from a lot of constituents in the next 48 hours. You know, down in Georgia, we have a state senator, William Liggins from St. Simons, Georgia, who has chaired an oversight committee, and he has brought forward all kinds of witnesses to vote tampering and to fraud and so forth. And he's been doing this without much national press, but those who've been following his hearings have been really convinced and outraged. I think the same thing could happen because of Senator Hawley in Washington, D.C. It's a much bigger platform than William Liggins in St. Simons, Georgia has had. But once he does this, you know, sometimes it just takes the first person to jump in the pool. Mo Brooks from Alabama is going to be doing the same thing on the House side. And so I think you're going to have a lot of members of Congress weigh in. And once people start hearing the outrageous stories that, except for Newsmax, most people would not have had the chance to hear, I think this is going to really change some minds and outrage a lot of people.
Well, you hope all the networks will be tuning in for that day. It will be an important one, an historic one as well. Jack Kingston and Bobby Eberle, our panelists for New Year's Eve. Thank you both, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary. We'll see you next time.